Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 255. With NFP out of the way right now, it's really time to get into the markets and focus. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the analysis. Before we jump into the technicals, let's have a look at the economic calendar. So what we see is that on Monday, we don't have anything. So Monday is potentially a skip day, although usually the Mondays after NFP, they tend to be quite volatile. So we could, of course, potentially monitor US session. Tuesday, we have some GBP news and CAT speech. So Tuesday, no USD news. It also looks like that it's not going to be very well tradable because it's also going to be the day before CPI. So CPI is one of the most important news releases when it comes to the US dollar and, of course, the whole market. So I do believe I'm just going to be trading after this CPI. So after the news release, if there is an opportunity, I'm going to take it. On Thursday, 100% trading day. Unfortunately, like if you're trading Euro USD, you're also going to have to wait for the interest rate, which we can see it's going to, whoa, that is a very big decrease. It's not 25 basis points, but it's, what is it? It's even more than 50. Wow. All right, that is very interesting. So that could potentially really send the Euro USD down to hell. So let's see how that's going to go. And then, of course, with that, we also have PPI and unemployment claims and then a press conference from the ECB. So, you know, with these kind of things, it's always 50-50, right? Usually we know right now that the move on the US dollar will potentially going to happen on Wednesday. So then potentially Thursday and Friday could be the potential continuations, right? Monday potentially consolidate, Tuesday maybe drive us into some sort of a zone or something like that. And then potentially Wednesday and Thursday are going to be the focus. However, you should also be aware that you don't want to be trading before interest rates. You don't want to be trading before CPI. All right. So I guess this week is also going to be a little bit of waiting, but I will definitely try to strike on Wednesday after CPI and also on Thursday and Friday. So with that being said, let's have a look how this week played out. And just a very quick note about our school community. We are right now 600 members. The value that we post inside and the amazing community that we are building right now, it's amazing. Make sure to join in because this course I've never shared before and you're missing out if you're not inside. All right, as always, starting with the dollar. Now on the monthly time frame, nothing has changed pretty much. We are still taking this monthly liquidity here and we're potentially headed towards this low potentially, right? Dropping onto the weekly time frame, we pulled back into this weekly bearish imbalance this week and we're already seeing a very nice reaction. So that makes me think that we could potentially right now be reaching for that low. We really did try to reach it, but we stopped very close by, which is usually very strange. Which is why I think potentially Monday, right, or early in the week, like Monday and Tuesday, even before the CPI, we could potentially seek that liquidity, but I really don't want to be making that call because, again, we don't know yet. And as you can see, we actually formed a daily bearish imbalance out of this weekly one, which literally suggests right now that the weekly is bearish and the daily is bearish. So if we start getting like the time frames like 1H and 50 minutes starting to align lower, I do believe this weekly target here, it's going to be a very nice drawn liquidity. And then we drop to the 4H. This is where it gets a little bit ugly with the NFP news release candle. So this week was like the only kind of clear move we had was on Wednesday. And that was also before news release. And before that, it was very choppy. So the news release came in, boom, and boom. And yeah, then we had a little move here on late Thursday to Friday. Then NFP tapping us into that daily zone. So right now, really, even I would go to the 1 hourly time frame. And if the market right now starts guiding me lower on the 1 hourly, maybe even early in the week, I will definitely be willing to take a short into that weekly. But if the market also starts kind of breaking above this daily zone and starting to build bullish order flow, I would definitely also not hesitate to be targeting that high. Okay, so those are my pretty much two scenarios on the DXY. I would say I'm a little bit more bearish simply because we are tapping into weekly, driving into weekly liquidity. And in the meantime, we have a daily zone as well that got tapped. So if you start getting 1 hourly bearish order flow going lower, I will definitely try to short. If, of course, not proven otherwise. If the market opens and just starts expanding higher, of course, I'm not going to short. So that is the DXY overall short bias. Let's see how the others are looking like. EUR/USD monthly time frame also taking here that monthly liquidity, and right now we have to check out what is happening on the weekly. So I took a very interesting loss this week on EUR/USD. I was trying to not really scalp, but I was trying to trade into that weekly imbalance, and later it came to our attention with the Fanatic team that the futures on let me see how I do this 6E, the futures chart actually tapped that weekly imbalance here. So I literally tried to trade into that weekly imbalance on my CFD broker while the actual thing actually got tapped and it started reversing. So it was a rather strange loss that kind of made me really aware of that kind of wick differences between all the brokers. And I did check like Forex.com, Wanda, FXCM. Neither of them actually tapped that weekly imbalance. Meanwhile, you can see on the futures chart, it was actually tapped. So I literally tried to capitalize on this short move, trading into that weekly zone. It went fine, but then all of a sudden it just like fully reversed, which was quite strange, right? So currently, let's see what do we have on the daily time frame. Well, we have this upper zone here. That was a zone that the market could potentially react from. And what you can see also here is we had this very tiny little bit of a daily bullish imbalance. So what are we having here? We're having a little bit of a stuck situation. The market reacting from this daily, but then pulling back into this daily here. We also have the sell candle, that is our order block, that could potentially push price higher. And then we can open up the 4-hourly time frame, and yeah, with NFP, it's looking a little bit strange. So usually what I've spotted after NFP is, and also after like CPIs or interest rates, the next day usually tends to move a lot. So there could be some sort of a move on Monday, but in order for me to take a trade, I really need to have a clear bias. To me right now, if I'm more bearish on the DXY, and if actually this Euro chart has tapped into this weekly imbalance, which on the CFD brokers it has not, then I'm also going to be quite bullish, right? And we're also tapping into that daily zone on the 40 time frame. It's a little bit of a mess. So I'm going to say something similar as on the DXY. If we start building bullish order flow going higher, I would definitely love to target that high, okay? Now, of course, firstly, we can start with taking the previous daily low, right? So imagine something like a little manipulation. And then if we start pushing higher and make potentially like a 1-hourly breakup structure with a 1-hour imbalance, I will definitely be up for it to be targeting that high. Because you can see this high here is reacting from that old daily imbalance, but taking us then into the recent daily bullish imbalance. So right now, you really have to be looking at that kind of a meso time frame, like the middle time frame, because you don't want to drop right now on the 50-minute. You're gonna get chopped up. You really want to see right now, okay, 4-hourly time frame is not telling me anything, but what will the 1-hourly pretty much tell me? Is this daily imbalance going to hold and start building bullish order flow towards that high, or is it not going to hold and start building bearish order flow maybe towards then this low? Okay, so not a very extremely clear bias. We really have to wait potentially for Monday's London session to play out and then check out what is happening on New York. However, we also don't have any news on Monday, so I'm just going to stay disciplined and I'm not gonna trade because there are no news. We're also having CPI on Wednesday, so very likely I'm gonna be taking it easy all the way until Wednesday. So for EU right now, not a clear bias. All right, next on the list is GBP/USD, also taking out that massive high right here. And so far, not a very big move. You can see the monthly candle hasn't moved as much. But what is very nice on that pair is that it actually tapped into this weekly imbalance and it actually tried to react. But then you can see on NFP, it pulled back all the way down, which is rather strange. So it could right now be seeking something lower, which in our case is going to be this massive sell to buy. All right, so is that an order block? Is it just a sell to buy? I don't really care, but it's a very nice sell to buy area that the market could potentially be looking to pull back a little bit deeper and also maybe get us a little bit into discount because right now it's in premium. Okay, and then yeah, you can pretty much see it here on the daily. The market tapped in, it tried to push, but then on NFP just whoa, massive. So even judging by this candle, I would immediately say that this here is a very likely drawn liquidity, because if the market really failed to push higher from that weekly zone and like really start making a 4-hourly bullish order flow, which is what I told my team all week, right? Let's just wait for GU to show us the bullishness. Let us just wait to see that 4-hourly time frame is going to start making bullish imbalances, breaking structure clearly. Now, this is where I really want to make a point about imbalances, is that in this case, you had, for example, why are all my things messed up? We had, for example, the structure break right here, and then we started having a structure break here, and then we started having a structure break here, right? So structure was bullish, but do you see a single bullish imbalance within this whole thing? No, not a single one. Here, yeah, this one looks like it's probably even not, right? This indicates to me that there is no momentum to the upside. And when you can see right now, NFP manipulate up, manipulate, and pretty much expand lower, we have actually a bearish imbalance. So this to me right here, I think we also have some news on Tuesday for the pound. That looks like a very good trade opportunity. That looks like a very good trade opportunity, honestly. So let's see how that's going to play out. I'm just going to call out this one here to potentially drive us into that liquidity, and then the market could potentially try to get us a little bit deeper into that very, very big sell to buy area. So GU doesn't look that bad. Is it really going to be short? Let's see. That means that the DXY has to be long, which we also forecasted as short. So not entirely yet. We're having also the correlation between the DXY and the major pairs. It's still kind of, the market is a little bit in deciding what it wants to do. But this one to me just pure technically looks, it makes a lot of sense. So I'm just going to leave it here. I'm not going to drop to the 1 hourly because there is nothing much. If the market starts expanding the first thing when the weekly candle opens, then yeah, if you can trade it, if you can scalp into it, that's fine. But when it takes that liquidity, then pretty much I'm going to be looking for CPI. So if you can trade towards this low before CPI, that's okay. But if CPI comes in, then you have to wait and see and evaluate. Now, I really love Aussie dollar, but there are times at which it just gets very choppy. And right now on the monthly time frame, you can see it's been choppy for a whole year, right? So didn't really manage to pick some sort of a direction. Then we start dropping onto the weekly time frame, and I really don't like this. So we're having like a massive move down with imbalances, and right now we're having a massive move up with imbalances, and right now we're coming back in, right? So we had 1 and 2 bearish, right now we have 1 and 2 bullish, and right now we're having a very massive expansion candle, taking us into that second one, right? But is it going to hold? Is it going to make actually a bearish imbalance this week? I don't like it. I really don't like it because this is not trending, and even on the lower time frames it was super shitty. But if you actually have a look at it, it had this daily bearish imbalance that it formed, and it just tagged it in, and then it just rushed for that weekly liquidity on NFP. So the move on this one is pretty much over right now. For Aussie dollar, it's gonna be patience, right? So it's gonna tap into that weekly. We're gonna have to wait and see if we're gonna have a brand new daily. Then if we're gonna go long, the market has to tap the daily, react, and then break the daily, and then to potentially start seeking the highs. But if that daily holds, then potentially we can start seeking the lows. So for Aussie dollar, not ideal, right? So you can see we haven't yet tapped the weekly, although right now I don't trust even this price data anymore, because right now if I go on the futures chart, it's probably tapped. Let's try. Is it 6A for the Aussie? Yeah. So if I drop to the weekly time frame, there it is. So on the weekly time frame, it's actually tapped already on the futures. So I'm very pissed. Kind of a little bit pissed because I lost the trade just because of that. You can see here it's not tapped yet. So if you just jump in on Monday and you try to trade into it, well, no, the market can right now actually start reversing because it's already tapped into that weekly zone, while on this price data, it has not, right? So let's give it some time, right? I would immediately say that to me, like, this looks like a pretty nice setup, something similar to GU. But if the market has actually already tapped that weekly imbalance, I would potentially just wait. What I would actually wait for is for Monday to close to see if we're gonna have a daily bearish imbalance here, and then just wait a day or two to see how the market is gonna react from that newly formed daily bearish imbalance here, and then look to see if it's gonna fail, if it's gonna hold, and then I'm just gonna act accordingly. Okay, so no immediate buys right now for Aussie dollar. We gotta wait. All right, let's check out NZUSD. Also starting right now, the monthly candle as a little bit bearish. Now this one is a little bit more bullish than Aussie dollar. And you can see it's just right now tapping into this weekly zone. It's also kind of retesting this overall area here to the left. So that is a very good longing area. Is it really gonna go long? Well, we have to see. And as you can see, the weekly zone actually got tapped. It reacted and it pulled back into this daily zone. And actually this daily zone held, like from on NFP. We just rushed a little bit higher and then we just massively exploded lower. So where is it going right now? If it's not gonna hold from that weekly zone, again, it has this massive, once again, sell to buy area here. So that could be another potential thing that could hold. And if this doesn't hold, then we're gonna head for this tiny imbalance below here. Daily time frame, massive expansion, and also hourly time frame, we're having this hourly bearish imbalance as well. But this right here, I don't love it because it's also taking this liquidity, and that was in the form of a daily swing point. So right now, yeah, if we pull back into this hourly zone and we start getting bearish signs, it could be a potential trade. But again, it's still into that weekly zone. So it can absolutely still reverse because, again, remember, just because the market tapped here and reacted and right now it's coming back in, doesn't mean that this weekly zone is disregarded, because we are actually, if this is a weekly zone, so that is the first weekly candle that taps into a weekly zone. And if you're looking like the weekly zone, then usually you have to spend, for example, 1 or 2 weeks here to see if the market is really going to hold or not. So next candle could potentially right now sweep the previous weekly low, and then it could start turning bullish. And then that imbalance is still actually holding. Okay, so let's see. Again, just let's give it some time. It was quite a choppy week here. You can see, like, just made a move down there on Tuesday, and then it chop, a little bit of a pullback. And then NFP just smashed the market lower. I really want to see, are we going to pull back and start flushing lower? Are we maybe going to just liquidate lower and then start pushing higher with a hourly bullish imbalance? Let's see. All right, it's not ready yet. I'm definitely going to wait. Mr. Gold is next on the list. On the monthly time frame so far, small candle. Dropping onto the weekly time frame, like, look at this once again. Okay, so once again, we're having that weekly bullish imbalance on gold. Okay, and you can see it's not tapped yet, but then I just immediately go to the gold futures. It's tapped. Okay, so just a little tip for you guys to be watching out for, because I was a victim of this that week, and I kind of got pissed. Even thinking of moving to futures, but that's gonna be a very, very big transition for me that I don't really want to do. So yeah, right now, if I just look at this chart, I could tell you, well, potentially we could still travel towards that weekly imbalance. But right now, knowing that kind of the official source has already tapped it, I'm skeptical. Dropping onto the daily time frame, we tried to push up, but then Friday just massively sent the price down. We didn't really take out that high yet. Then dropping onto the hourly time frame, well, let's see, it moved higher very nicely. There was this very nice hourly bullish imbalance here. The market taps, takes out actually this high, but then after we took out that high, we just massively started reversing on the NFP. And right now we're having a hourly bearish imbalance to potentially guide us lower. Do we have anything to stop us to the left? Not really. I feel like just gold is in a consolidation. So let's start here. Gold is in a consolidation. Okay, that's a fact. And when you're trading consolidations, of course, you trade from one side to the other side, from one side to the other side. Okay, so right now the market, if I just take this thing, okay, and if I just plot a line exactly in the middle, it's exactly in the middle right now. And that is the worst place you could usually be trading in a consolidation, in the middle, because it can do anything. Okay, so pretty much right now, again, if I just stay a little bit more systematic and say, okay, well, there is the daily time frame is showing me bearishness with this last daily candle. The hourly time frame took liquidity. It's starting to break structure. There is really nothing to the left that I think the market can push very aggressively higher from. We're having a hourly bearish structure break and a hourly bearish imbalance. This to me looks like a viable setup, right? Very easy, viable setup. Now, again, the thing is, we're already tapped into that weekly imbalance, so should you really target that low? Well, of course, sometimes imbalances get tapped, react, and then still like reverse and break the reaction. Oh, what am I doing? Break the reaction and then just start continuing going lower, right? That's normal. So let's see. I'm just gonna leave gold here. I would say I'm a little bit more bearish than bullish, but I would also say with a very, very, very big kind of just keep it on the back of your mind. We're in a consolidation. We're not committed to a trend yet. And this weekly imbalance has been tapped. So the market can very easily shift higher as well. So be careful of that. But if I'm to give you a setup, that is my setup. But again, am I going to trade it on Monday? Very likely not. especially London session for gold doesn't work amazing. Let Monday pass out, let it show you what it wants to do, and then of course we're gonna strike in the upcoming days. And I would also advise you for gold also to wait for CPI. It's probably waiting for CPI to exit this consolidation, so don't get messed up in the middle of this consolidation. Let's have a look at USD JPY. What I spotted is that when the USD and when the majors like Euro, GBP are usually chopping around, then that is when USD JPY goes in a row. I had 2 community members absolutely smashing USD JPY this week. So currently we're headed towards that low, okay? And the very recent one that I probably believe we forecasted last week was that previous monthly low. And we're getting very close to it, right? So it was a little bit 50-50 because we were reacting from that weekly bearish imbalance here. The market tapped in. It really showed us that it wants to go down. But then we had this week that it just pulled back and it was kind of strange, right? At that time, it could have done 2 things, right? It could have trended a little bit higher to take out that high. Or of course, it could have reversed lower and resumed that overall bearish bias. Super strong closure here. And you can see Monday, high of the week, short, 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 right? So that is a good market. That is a good market. Let me just compare it with gold real quick. Ooh, right? Just gold, USD JPY, gold, USD JPY. You see the difference. So we are about to be taking that previous monthly low. Currently, what we have on the daily is this daily bearish imbalance, but the market is just running away from it. So very likely right now, ooh, I was gonna say very likely we can trade from something on the hourly, but the hourly also looks a little bit horrendous. So even the hourly time frame looks a little bit bad right now. So I will say, I hate to say it, but I'm gonna say wait. Okay, I'm gonna say wait, because right now we're gonna be taking a massive weekly swing point. And when we take a weekly swing point, the market does tend to either pull back on the weekly or on the daily. Okay, so let's see if we're gonna have a daily bearish imbalance created pretty much after Monday. So let's wait for Monday's candle to open, to close, and then to see if we're gonna have a daily bearish imbalance. If we do, okay, if we do, then that is gonna be a very nice pullback, and then to potentially short from there into that drawn liquidity. So that will be my ideal weekly development on USD JPY. If it doesn't happen, of course, I have absolutely no idea what the market is going to do. But if it does this, I would be very happy to take a short trade, because literally we're taking a weekly liquidity, pulling back into daily imbalance, and then of course from there we can continue pushing with the overall trend. Okay, now keep in mind we have the CPIs, we have all the news that could definitely change the narrative, but right now USD JPY is super bearish, so let's see how it goes. Euro USD monthly time frame also taking here that monthly liquidity, and right now we have to check out what is happening on the weekly. So I took a very interesting loss this week on Euro USD. I was trying to, not really scalp, but I was trying to trade into that weekly imbalance. And later it came to our attention with the Fanatic team that the futures on, let me see how I do this, 6E, the futures chart actually tapped that weekly imbalance here. So I literally tried to trade into that weekly imbalance on my CFD broker, while the actual thing actually got tapped and it started reversing. So it was a rather strange loss that kind of made me really aware of that kind of wick differences between all the brokers. And I did check like Forex.com, Wanda, FXCM. Neither of them actually tapped that weekly imbalance. Meanwhile, you can see on the futures chart, it was actually tapped. So I literally tried to capitalize on this short move, trading into that weekly zone. It went fine, but then all of a sudden it just like fully reversed, which was quite strange, right? So currently, let's see what do we have on the daily time frame. Well, we have this upper zone here. That was a zone that the market could potentially react from. And what you can see also here is we had this very tiny little bit of a daily bullish imbalance. So what are we having here? We're having a little bit of a stuck situation. The market reacting from this daily, but then pulling back into this daily here. We also have the sell candle, that is our order block, that could potentially push price higher. And then we can open up the hourly time frame, and yeah, with NFP, it's looking a little bit strange. So usually what I've spotted after NFP is, and also after like CPIs or interest rates, the next day usually tends to move a lot. So there could be some sort of a move on Monday, but in order for me to take a trade, I really need to have a clear bias. To me right now, if I'm more bearish on the DXY, and if actually this Euro chart has tapped into this weekly imbalance, which on the CFD brokers it has not, then I'm also going to be quite bullish, right? And we're also tapping into that daily zone on the 40 time frame. It's a little bit of a mess. So I'm going to say something similar as on the DXY. If we start building bullish order flow going higher, I would definitely love to target that high, okay? Now, of course, firstly, we can start with taking the previous daily low, right? So imagine something like a little manipulation. And then if we start pushing higher and make potentially like a 1 hourly breakup structure with a 1 hour imbalance, I will definitely be up for it to be targeting that high. Because you can see this high here is reacting from that old daily imbalance, but taking us then into the recent daily bullish imbalance. So right now, you really have to be looking at that kind of a meso time frame, like the middle time frame, because you don't want to drop right now on the 50-minute. You're going to get chopped up. You really want to see right now, okay, 4-hourly time frame is not telling me anything, but what will the 1 hourly pretty much tell me? Is this daily imbalance going to hold and start building bullish order flow towards that high, or is it not going to hold and start building bearish order flow maybe towards then this low? Okay, so not a very extremely clear bias. We really have to wait potentially for Monday's London session to play out and then check out what is happening on New York. However, we also don't have any news on Monday, so I'm just going to stay disciplined and I'm not gonna trade because there are no news. We're also having CPI on Wednesday, so very likely I'm gonna be taking it easy all the way until Wednesday. So for Iliya right now, not a clear bias. All right, the better one in this case is going to be GJ because this one actually tapped into the monthly zone. All right, and right now we can start heading all the way lower. Then we drop to the weekly. You can see the weekly just tapped and just massively started reversing. The daily time frame is also quite bearish, and you can see here to the left there is absolutely nothing to potentially stop price and push it higher. Now, of course, we do have this daily imbalance, but I don't think the market could pull back. Well, it definitely could, but maybe it will not. So again, same thing that I said on UJ and EJ, wait for Monday to pass, wait to see if we're going to have a daily imbalance here. That's going to be great to potentially guide us lower. And in the meantime, you could be working with this 4-hourly zone. So I'm quite bearish on all the JPYs. And usually when I'm quite convinced of something, it tends to not happen. But I think this one is pretty good, right? So it made this low, then it spent quite some time pulling back into this weekly zone. And right now, pretty much this is all liquidity. So I do feel like even on the weekly time frame right now, next week could also be another expansion candle like that. So if you're trading JPYs, I think right now it's a pretty good time to be doing so. They all look good. I would just prefer for Monday to pass to form that daily bearish imbalance and then potentially take it from there. But if you're feeling more adventurous, you can also trade from that 4-hourly zone. But overall, fully bearish bias on the JPYs. Indices are taking a beating this week, so monthly time frame starts looking quite bearish. We were coming from this monthly bullish imbalance. We tried to push up, but as you can see, we actually failed to take all-time highs, which is quite interesting. And just to very quickly double check, I'm quickly gonna head for ES. I probably have to do my analysis here. And yes, this one also did not take the all-time highs, so that is correct. Okay. Dropping onto the weekly time frame, well, we are actually kind of tapping into that weekly zone, but just look at that weekly candle here. Do you think like this weekly zone could hold? Well, of course, it definitely could, but this to me looks like a very sharp candle. Now, is it manipulation into that weekly zone? It could be. So that is the first time that SPX is tapping into that weekly zone, while we know Nasdaq already tapped it. But you can see here it got tapped on Tuesday. 2 days of a chop, and then Friday just whoop massively flushes lower. Okay, so you can absolutely keep that weekly imbalance here, but I'm starting to have reservations whether it's actually going to hold. Now currently we're tapping into a daily reaction area that the market could potentially react from, and of course we're having this potential daily imbalance forming. So what I would say, absolutely wait for Monday, because we don't have any news on Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday could potentially be tradable for the indices. Although, again, we're having CPI on Wednesday, so I would much prefer to wait for that. And then potentially after that news release, evaluate what could potentially be going on. Okay, but overall quite bearish. And you can even see right now we're tapping into a daily reaction area that then can pull us back into this 4-hourly recent imbalance. And then from there, we could potentially start going lower. All right. Looks quite good for shorts, honestly, I'm gonna say. So let's see, right? Let's see if the indices are short. Does that mean that the dollar is actually gonna go long? Let's see, right? I'm still kind of not really 100% on the bias and on the overall market sentiment. But looking at what has overall happened with this very massive flush on Tuesday, then consolidation, then Friday keeps pushing it down. I am right now more short bias, but of course that can very quickly change if you start getting that change of order flow, because this weekly imbalance is still valid, right? It's still valid because that is the first week we're tapping into. So now if the next weekly candle starts massively pushing lower, and if we really start getting the daily time frame to be forming continuous daily bearish imbalances, then we can start targeting even lows like that, okay? But again, until we get there, we really need to be sure that this is happening. So for now, on the short term, this looks like a pretty good setup. We're overall short bias on the short term. So let's see how it goes after CPI this week. Nasdaq also taking a little bit of a beating, a very nice monthly candle so far. And here you can see this is where it gets interesting, because here on the weekly time frame, this is what I talked to you guys about the weekly time frame, how again the first candle, no matter how deep it goes, it can still react. But then the second candle really matters, right? So here, for example, we have that weekly imbalance, the market taps, it looks bearish, you might say, oh, bearish, but then of course the next candle is important. Here, weekly imbalance, the market taps, reacts, okay, but we're still not sure whether the next candle is gonna go. But then the next candle actually shows you that it wants to go, and then you target that order flow range highs, the week high here, right? So currently we had that weekly imbalance, the market tapped it, it looked very good, but then this candle here, it makes me really kind of secure that this could potentially go down, all right? And what we also see is that it actually had a daily imbalance here, and the market tapped it, reacted, and then on NFP, it just rushed lower. What is very good thing about Nasdaq as well is that, for example, SPX right now, it's tapping into this daily imbalance that can potentially make it pull back. Nasdaq already did that. It already tapped into this. It already pulled back. And right now, it's already breaking this area. So all the way towards this low, Nasdaq is looking like it could free fall. So again, Monday, I would really love to see a daily bearish imbalance, although I would much prefer to trade Nasdaq on the hourly time frame this week, because there is literally nothing to stop it on the daily and even on the hourly time frame. If you look to the left, maybe there is a zone or two that could potentially cause a reaction, but you can see right now it's probably just gonna flush if it's really gonna get bearish. Okay, so if you're trading Nasdaq, I think for the incoming week, 4-hourly zones are gonna be your best friend. If it's really gonna go bearish, it's probably gonna go bearish big on the daily, because there is absolutely nothing to the left to stop it, either on the weekly and on the daily. So in that case, the 4-hourly time frame is gonna be your best friend. Either wait for 4-hourly new bearish imbalances to form and track it lower, or wait for the market to pull back into that one and then start giving you 1-hourly bearish imbalances and structure to guide you lower. Or of course, if something happens that we have a daily bearish imbalance created right now on Monday, and then potentially Tuesday comes to tap, that is going to be even better. So I am quite bearish on the indices, surprisingly quite bearish on the indices. Let's see if that is actually going to follow through. And if it does, then we have clear targets. This low on Nasdaq, here all the way this low on SPX. Although SPX is not as weak as Nasdaq, but Nasdaq is giving us a lot of clues that it wants to go down. And also it first tapped that weekly imbalance, and right now candle 2 is literally telling us, well, right, well, I potentially want to go down. Okay, so bearish bias on Nasdaq. Let me know if you guys agree with me. We'll hope to hear from you in the comments. And lastly, US 30 as well. It took all-time highs, and right now it's also very massively flushing lower. It's pulling back into this. Currently, this weekly imbalance, but again, like judging by the others, is it really going to hold? Well, I don't know. I would potentially once again want to see if I want to trade this one. I would like to see a daily imbalance to get created. So on Monday, let's hope we have that daily bearish imbalance. And if we do, then that could be tradable. Now, what I don't like about US 30 is that it has a lot of bullish imbalances here to the left on the daily. So those are all potential reaction areas. So the market can tap in this, react, tap in this, react, tap, react, all the way until like everything is taken. So we have 1, we have 2, and this one is just tapping right now as well. So you can expect maybe US 30 not to go as fast as Nasdaq could potentially go. But of course, let's see. They're all looking bearish, which is, to me, it's a good sign when, like, for example, Usually US30 does something different, but right now all the indices are bearish, which means that the overall stock indices and the overall stock market is overall getting into a little bit of a tumble, which could also be a good time to potentially put some capital to work, put some into the S&P, for example. So yeah, bearish bias on US30 as well, looking quite good for shorts next week. All right, so going back full circle for a quick recap, I am more bearish on the DXY, but after looking at all the pairs here, I start having my reservations. All right, so if the DXY is bearish, then that means Euro USD should be bullish. That could definitely be the case, but we're not getting the signs yet. So I would truly want to see, for example, 4-hourly and 1-hourly imbalances to start getting me higher in order to be taking longs. GBP USD, it's looking quite short, right? It's looking quite short, which makes me think, okay, is the DXY really going to go short? This one tapped into the weekly imbalance, reacted, but right now it really kind of failed to push us higher. So this low is weak. So then, of course, I'm going to be targeting that low. And then what happens after we take out that low? Well, that, of course, we have to see. Aussie dollar and NZD dollar also super bearish. Like, is this a manipulation on NFP setting the monthly low and then potentially to start reversing? I have no idea. But of course, we have to see what is going on. Aussie dollar is also tapping into this lower weekly imbalance, while NZD USD is just tapping for the first time into weekly imbalance. So are they going to start changing with 4-hourly bullish order flow? Let's see. Gold, overall consolidation, I would say. Big consolidation. What is it waiting for? Is it CPI? Is it something else? I don't know. But we are exactly in the middle of this overall consolidation. And yes, it's giving us 4-hourly bearish imbalance here to potentially quickly trade into that 4-hourly low. I would personally be very careful with gold because it's just like going down a little bit, going up, then returning back down. It's not really trending. Meanwhile, the JPYs, they also look super bearish, right? So super bearish, USD JPY massively flushing towards that low. Now let's see what happens after this low is taken. Preferably, I would like to see a new daily bearish imbalance to form, get pulled back to, and then to potentially trade into that major low. Meanwhile, EJ and GJ also look like very nice shorts. You can see, for example, EJ did not tap into this monthly, while GJ tapped, and right now they're both very nicely on the free fall. So you can definitely be looking for daily and even 4-hourly imbalances to just continue lower from, okay? And also indices. Indices are also looking quite bearish, especially NASDAQ. That has a very nice flush area all the way towards that low. SPX is still kind of for the first time tapped into that weekly imbalance, but judging by this candle, it's looking quite bearish, honestly. Daily time frame also making daily bearish imbalances, so I am rather bearish on indices. I'm probably gonna also stack into some stocks because like a 4% is usually like a little bit of a pullback. The market can reverse from here. Meanwhile, for example, here we had a 10%, which is more like of a correction. That is a better time to buy. But right now, for example, we can just be pulling back to 50% and then maybe we can start heading higher. But again, for the short term, looks quite bearish. And pretty much that's it. We're having CPI for the dollar on Wednesday. And usually with inflation reports, the market is really heavily awaiting those reports. That could be the very big mover for the week. And then Thursday and Friday could potentially be very nice trading days. So I'm skipping Monday, monitoring on Tuesday, waiting for Wednesday for CPI, and then potentially trying to focus. So traders, let me know how was your week. Let me know what kind of pairs you traded. Let me know what is your favorite pair and what is your plan for the incoming week. And I'm gonna talk to you potentially on Wednesday after CPI. So maybe I'm gonna do it on Thursday, the analysis. We'll see about that.